Nice.
All right, welcome. We have 3 sets of minutes to approve. I thought we approved one set of these already, but maybe.
No, we started to, and then we decided to table it because one of them didn't work. So yeah.
I wasn't sure what the status was. So we're going to start with the June 27th minutes. I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at them since Gordon sent them out.
Everybody get a chance to look at them?
Mm-hmm. Are there any questions, comments? All right. I will take a motion to approve the minutes from June 27th.
Motion so moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, so we will vote.
I think I have to do a roll call because we have.
Okay, we'll do a roll call because we are missing a few and some are online. But
Do we get Charles online?
I don't see him yet. I'm going to send him a panelist invite.
We can still do a roll call.
Okay. So Steve.
Yes.
Greg.
Yes.
Gordon.
Yes.
Matt.
I abstain.
Dane.
And Kevin.
Yes.
And I will say yes. So that would be.
Sorry to interrupt. Somebody give me Charles's email off the top of their head. Anybody have it?
Yeah, I got it. Charles _ Gray, GRAY 2 at MSN.com.
Oh, it's AY. We have it
At
Canadian.
MSN, you said?
Yes, sir. .com.
Thank you.
I'm not listed on these meeting minutes. I'm not sure if I was at that one or not. I think I was at that one, but not at the later 2. I can't remember.
I think you were at the June one.
June 27th.
Not at the July 6th.
The following one.
Yeah. Oh, we approved July 6th, right? We have, what do we have here?
We have June 27th, July 18th, and August 1st.
You may not have been at July 18th.
And okay. So do we need to change that and add Bruce's name?
I think you could still take the vote and we could amend it that you were at that meeting.
Yes, just put me as a yes, please.
Okay.
And
I'd do as yes. All right. And then Donna is not here and Charles is still not here. So
Much later.
okay. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would be 6 yeses and 1 abstention, and 2 are not here.
excuse me a second, Cora. Don, he says he's in, but he's not seeing anyone.
Yeah. He said he's on Google Drive. Is that where you're on? Google Meeting?
Not a Google.
No, it's a Zoom.
Zoom, right? But you just sent it to him?
I sent him a panelist link to that MSN.
His MSN account. It's always confusing to people.
We need him for the vote. Don't, Cora.
Okay.
Keep moving.
All right. Is there motion to amend and put Bruce in the minutes there on June 27th?
Didn't we just approve them?
Yeah. So I don't know if we.
You just approve them with the amendment that Bruce be added to the, and then we'll make that.
And then reapprove them? So, Madam Person, I move that we amend the June 27th, 2023 meeting minutes and include Mr. Finney as being present and approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay. So we'll do it again. All right. Steve.
Still yes.
Greg.
Yes.
Gordon.
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Cora. Yes. Matt.
Abstain.
Okay.
Yes. Sounds like we have Charles.
All right. So we're going to move on to the July 18th minutes. The meeting we had early in the morning.
I move to approve the July 18th minutes.
Any seconds?
Second.
All right. So go around again. Charles, we're voting on the July 18th minutes.
Sounds good. I'm here.
Steve, Greg,
Yes.
Gordon,
Yes.
Matt,
Abstain.
Bruce,
Abstain.
Donna, Kevin,
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
and I will be a yes. Right, so passes. And then moving on to the August 1st minutes.
I move to approve the August 1st minutes as presented.
All right.
Second.
I did.
Okay, Steve.
It was kind of a subtle,
Is it quiet second? Okay.
All right, so we're voting on the August.
just paying attention. So,
Steve,
yes, please.
Greg,
Yes.
Gordon,
Yes.
Matt,
Abstain.
Bruce,
Abstain.
Donna's not here, Kevin,
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
and I would be a yes. Okay. So those have. Okay, I am going to turn this over then to Dory. Or
I think so. I mean, Dory, Ben, Dory,
Yeah, we could do a little update.
tag team. You want forward for us?
I do.
Well, public participation, I guess there's nothing to.
Unless we have anybody online, Mr. Mackey?
You do not.
Justin, yeah, you want to take
I'll take this. I believe everybody knows where we last left off. So the design team has, since our last meeting, completed the schematic design documents. We've gone through an estimate reconciliation process. So the estimator came forward with a number through that estimate and actually kind of whittled it down to a new number, which you folks will be seeing today. And you'll see all of where it came in day one versus where it's at now later in the presentation. And so now we are prepared to make a recommendation for the budget for you folks today, but also make this a full discussion. If there are any concerns or if there needs to be any further discussion, we're here to do so. So that being said, this is all aimed at so next week, the town council on Tuesday, the 12th, that is going to be, we think, a meeting specifically on the bonding process and that only. But the big vote, the vote on the ballot language for the pool project as well as the school project, will occur on 9/15. So that's Friday. And so that's why this meeting is very important. We're kind of queuing it up for next week, which then queues it up for November's vote, November 7th at the end of there. So I don't know if we need to go through the rest of the schedule. It
No.
closely mirrors the school schedule. So I'll save you guys.
So in the estimating process, just to kind of start with what we had been publicly talking, we had had that reference to 15 million that had come from taking the West Springfield pool and Skanska doing a study of what inflation would have added to that cost. So given that we were looking at the same basic pool in size and scope. So that's where we had that number. We'd also communicated estimated town cost of 14 to 16 in our documents as a general goal. The estimate came back from PM&C on construction and construction costs at 14,726,950. From that, we then went through a process of BE, and I'll go through some of that. But some of it is corrections brought in from engineers, and some of it was reductions that we did to try and get it down. And then we came to a revised estimate of construction costs of 13,997,536. And then added to that is the soft costs and the owner's contingency numbers, which puts us at a project budget proposal project cost of 16,795,536. And to move on, just to give you a little background on that, this is part of the cover sheet from PM&C. So to break that number down further, the top number, essentially 10.7 million, is the labor and materials costs. So that's your direct construction costs. Then you add to that the site costs, and then the design and pricing contingency and escalation. So these numbers have been kept generous at the moment. And then you have the general conditions, general requirements, et cetera, the CM fee. So in the general, I bring this up simply to say that the difference between where we hope to come in and where we are coming in, that difference I think has to do with a couple of things. One is in doing that escalation of a presumed same design, we weren't really accounting for the additional costs associated with meeting today's stretch code. So this building has more insulation at the walls that we can't remove, more, we really did go through the VE and pare a lot back. So at that, I don't think 10.7 in direct costs is at all bad. I think we actually were very pleased when we saw the number. And I think that the total of 10.7 out of a goal of 16, say, in direct costs isn't bad. And I think there's quite a bit beyond that we can kind of talk through here in terms of any adjustment, but that gets us to that construction cost there. And then if you go to the next page, these are the things that we removed. There are, probably a few things that were just kind of corrections along the way, but simple things that, reduction of a bollard. There were some things where the cost estimator was making assumptions that we eliminated because it's part of the, the school site. So a lot of individual site things. We don't need a bike rack. There's a bike rack for the school. So reduction of those elements, reduction again of the gravel base, of the slab. The roof screen was a big change, so it's actually across several different locations here, but that's about 200,000. And you put the screen in hoping you can get it. It's not at all uncommon not to, and it's actually in this case the mechanical equipment's at the back, so it's only visible really from the game side of the building. Not a problem. Acoustic deck. So acoustically, we really wanted to provide for keeping the room from reverberating in an uncomfortable way. And we had two systems in place. One is acoustic block on one of the vertical faces, so roughly 20% of the wall area, and the other is acoustic deck. The acoustic deck was quite expensive, so one option was to remove that. It means that we're a little bit uncomfortable, and we'll do more modeling in DD to try and see if we can verify that we're going to find that comfortable. We can add back less expensively without acoustic deck.
Comfortably acoustically?
Yeah, there's no lead requirement here, right? So pools can be loud, but we don't want it to be uncomfortable. So we'll do some modeling of our acoustics. We have some there. If we're concerned about it, we would probably add something less expensive than acoustic deck, right? And we're talking to structural, and they have enough range in their structural number, in their structural steel number to allow, because what we would ideally do is add more acoustic block, but then we already have very heavy masonry walls that are actually shear walls that are filled block. So we're discussing how in DD that's going to change a little bit. There will be some avenue to add more acoustic block, hopefully, which will just improve where we are right now at the DD, at the SD for the acoustic treatment. So that's just an environmental.
Coach, if you just hang all those championship banners you got, we're probably.
So we're accruing a lot.
Put a little foam behind them. Nobody will notice. Yeah, so there are ways. It was a good, I think, decision to remove the acoustic, and that was quite a few different elements here. That's the 51,000 as well as the 34,000. We reduced our approach to the curtain wall because, again, there's always been this battle between the cost estimator and the design team on the cost of curtain wall. And we just took a small hit on the curtain wall, thinking we can change it out by changing to a high performing window system in parts of it. So that allows for 30K reduction. We took the ceramic tile out of the floor in the locker rooms and replaced it with the Duraflex epoxy resin, which would still be moppable, still have a texture, so it'd still be safe and reliable, and left the ceramic tile at the pool apron. We currently also have ceramic tile on the walls, just to a certain height. And I'm sorry, I want to introduce Aviva to those of you who haven't met Aviva Glasky. Aviva's been really managing all the drafting on this project. So if I look over there, it's for reassurance, on a height or something. Aviva's much more in touch with the details as we make them in real time. Bleacher seating, we were just verifying that. That was just a question we'd gone back and forth on.
We're not buying bleacher seats?
We are. No, we have them. It was just a question. The number was quite high. We provided a more detailed spec, and we are showing both a specific system, aluminum system on the visitor audience side, essentially. And then on the team side, we had to provide a custom detail to give them a sense of how that was going to be built, because we wanted something that would allow for storage in those 2 rows. So we quickly worked out a detail and have enough money to guarantee both of those things,
Piece of the change on that one is that we didn't specify fixed versus operable, and so the estimator went with the more expensive, assumption to be, and then we clarified.
Quick, brought that down. We reduced the site lighting simply because, again, part of the larger site. So there's some site lighting, but I think we left about 7,500 specific to the site, but most of the site lighting cost was removed. Similar with electric and communications scope, it was just clarity of what was not necessary because it was part of the larger package in a sense.
Is that supposed to be 40 or 40,000?
40. Yeah, sorry. These are my own internal notes. I'm like,
No, there is a 0 missing.
and then,
To be 40,000?
Yes.
yeah. And these are actually just sometimes often my estimated savings, but then if the numbers you're seeing in the actual resolution are from the cost estimate, we go through a process and then they come back with a corrected version and we give them the changes. So largely that's, those are the things that are most outstanding in the reduction. And there were some additional things that were discussed, but for code reasons kind of couldn't be taken. If you go to the next screen, a couple things that I'd say we left sort of on the table as issues that we did not feel should be taken, but that we wanted to report, that we would typically carry forward as issues to keep an eye on. But that, and Steve was kind of participating in this VE process. So we would often say, what do you think? So the granite base, remember at the base of the school, there's granite. And because it is a big ticket item, it's tempting to remove, we'd have to figure out what we were putting in its place. And it affects the front of the facade of the school as well, because we did keep it in the school. So we didn't feel that should be taken. The wall tile in the pool area, we do feel could be taken. We didn't have a number on hand at the moment, but what we were thinking is we bring it up to about 5 feet or so. So the idea is we could remove it and replace that block with a ground face block. So you'd still have a slightly nicer finish at a lower level. And that's not that much saving. It's about 35,000, 38,000. So it wasn't going to make or break the deal at the moment, and we didn't have the numbers exact at that moment, so we didn't take it at the time, but we would probably keep that on the list because we don't find that an objectionable idea. There's a display case. It's nice to have a display case specific to the pool. There's also a lot of display case in the gym area of the school, so negotiable. Then there are the 2 things that Michael offered when he looked through it, just if we were really struggling and wanted to take more. That is switch the gutter from stainless to concrete and reduce the quality of the pool plaster finish from pebble fina to standard. It's just a nicer finish on the interior of the pool itself. So those are things we discussed. And then just gives you a little bit of an idea of where that number would go. Again, if we took those, we'd give it to the estimator and they'd have to revise further. But we don't, at the moment, think that's going to magically get us below, the number that we had originally.
Sorry, is there any significance to the wall tile being, showing red negative and the rest being positive? These are all things we
no, so it's a 2-part process. So cut the wall tile, if we cut 58.8 for the wall tile, but if we replace that with ground face block, we're adding 20K to the CMU
Gotcha.
to get to a better face at that height. So it's a two-parter,
So your net's 38.8.
38.
Is there another option to is plaster the recommended finish?
They're both plaster. It's just different qualities of plaster.
Next to impossible to find plaster, so it's like a dying trade.
Well, I assume in the pool universe, they've got that taken, it's like to that. I don't know. You're saying, is there something else they could offer other than?
I'm just saying it's hard to get plasters. It's like a dying trade.
Yeah. My understanding was that was just again, two different qualities of finish.
Yeah, it's just a difficult thing to get tradesmen to do.
But you're going to buy the pool as a package anyway,
Right.
right? So it's going to be one guy delivering.
Oh, it's the pool itself? I thought it was the wall.
Oh, no. It's
No.
Oh, my bad.
So I'm like, what are we going to do?
You wouldn't do that.
My bad. I said,
Okay, so next, I think slide, we might want to go back or forth. I don't know. So this is I'll pass it over to Ben for this, or John.
Yes, so this is essentially what Dory walked through was the number for the construction budget. So on top of that, we always talk about soft costs. There are other categories that we need to be cognizant of that are going to be necessary to fund the project. So the biggest ones are obviously your OPM fees and your A&E architecture and engineering fees. So you see what that is up at the top here. It's really skinnied out. Beyond that, we do have some money in there for pre-construction services for the construction manager. So John and I just heard back from the Office of the Inspector General. So we are getting approval for CM at risk. Should be happening tomorrow. We should have the letter. So with that in mind, once we do bring a construction manager on board, before they really start to, shovels and dirt, we're going to have some pre-construction feedback. They'll be working alongside us, helping us with estimating, with coordination, with all that good stuff. So there's a little bit of work there. So we allocated $40,000 for that work. There's also $50,000 that we put in for utility company fees, which we think is appropriate for the utility services that will need to go on this project. Testing services. So this is third party testing, if you will. So we'll be, for compaction, for soils, for concrete, metal, and anything that we need to get tested and satisfied for the spec. We'll reach out to a third party testing agency to confirm that the work that the CM is doing is standards. And then there was a $25,000, I think we just had an allowance for some furnishings. Dory, I don't know if you.
Yeah, so that would take care of the audio visual systems, furniture in the office space, the lockers, things like that.
To clarify, that doesn't include equipment for the pool. That is built into the main construction budget.
So at the moment, that's just an allowance, and we'll detail it in DD.
So like timing systems, sound systems,
They're in
that's all separate.
a lot of it's in the construction budget already. Yeah. Chair, table, microwave.
Use items.
So if we get rid of the microwave, how much is that?
At $25.
Okay.
So any questions about the budget overall as you see it, or anything specific jump out at you?
Well, it's higher than we have been saying. I know we worked hard to value engineer the school to get it on budget, and I'm glad that we're able to stand on that ground that we did so. I'd much prefer to see that first number be 15. I don't know if it's possible to value engineer further, whether taking 3 feet out of the pool would help us. I know we're 6 inches over what others have. I don't know where else to go with that to get that kind of number, but
So we talked about that, thinking that you would bring that up, Greg, and the reason why we really tried to deliberate that process before is because in this case, it's hard to snap our fingers and give a number to that. And I don't think it's going to be the number that's going to help, because a lot of it is 3 feet of the middle there. So you're taking a little, we did verify height, we based on the FEMA guidelines, or the, code and requirements. We don't have any extra height there. So we're talking about essentially just reducing the pool itself, which certainly has some impact, but we can't change the mechanical systems based on that concept. It has to be designed out. So I don't know that we have a lot materially there. And it's also not something that we can tell you here is going to mean this. So
Are you taking into account the building small, making the building 3 feet smaller?
that's what I mean. So
And the pool.
exactly how, like it's,
Everything.
we'd have to revise all this information and send it back to the estimator and have come back. So it's not it's not like we can take the square footage difference and say it's exactly, that amount of money if it were that simple. But so that's why I do think that if you're interested in any changes, there's the question about looking at the, if you go back a couple slides,
Dory, you said that you analyzed this. Did you come up with a rough estimate of the cost savings, $500,000?
Right. So that's what I'm saying here. These changes we're talking about.
Of the 3 feet, I mean.
No, I did not, because it's going to be a lot of work for us to do that. Yeah. I mean, we talked about it.
Would it be $500,000?
Again, I'm not going to answer that question, Greg. I'm not going to.
3 feet by how much? How many square feet is it?
The
Shrinking the width of the pool.
Understood, but
In the building.
However long the building is.
Pull it up.
so 75, so about 100 in that area, but then
102, I want-
we're taking that, to what part you're taking
It's
out.
more complicated than just the square footage by.
Yeah.
Right, it's
so it's 300 square feet we're talking about.
Right, but just for fun, if we did that, 300 square feet at 800, $4 million,
Yeah, I
you're
would,
not going to get 300, you're going to get 180.
I'd use $500 a foot because you never get the full value.
I mean, your bather load's not gonna change, and your locker rooms, all that's gonna stay the same.
Yeah.
I did,
You said you're not gonna really.
right. We did run the numbers on that. Did it change our bather load by enough to change our plumbing fixtures? Did it change our
Right.
swimming our pool volume by enough to change the size required? We asked that for a pool designer. None of those changed. So it gets into the really picky pieces.
I think what I'm trying to draw back to again is that 10.7 of direct cost is extremely reasonable if we go tighter than that, other than changing the program. But I do think going back go back a couple of this screen. I do think we're carrying a high design and pricing contingency and escalation for a pool building. I would not feel that way for high school, right? Because a high school, there's a lot of things that are moving in that building. There's a lot of clients that will be engaged in DD. There's a lot of unknown elements of the program. The program here is what it is. It's not going to change, a lot. And it's a much smaller thing. So I do think that the design
What are you talking point?
take
7.5%
out
on
of that.
7.5% of schematic drawings is probably where it should be, right? For design contingency.
But similarly, I would put forward,
Mhm.
there is nothing that says whatever number we settle on, and that number gets voted on, and let's say for fun that it's approved, there's nothing that means we can't say, okay, that's all terrific. I need this thing to be 15.5 or whatever, some number. Now, in the course of design, it may come down to that is just simply not possible, short of meaningful sacrifice.
Mhm.
But it doesn't mean that we can't take a hard look at all of those numbers. Once this thing becomes more real,
Can we do that now?
you don't have time.
Time.
Helpful. Time is one thing, but we want to pass this thing. And
Understood.
when I say to people 15 million, they say, wow. When I say to people 17 million, that's less votes. And if it wasn't 15 million, we shouldn't have said 15. If it wasn't 10 when we started, we shouldn't say 10. So to come in 2 million over budget and just, that's not an easy sell to this community that's already teetering on passing this thing.
So do you think there is a meaningful amount of people that are a yes at 15 and a no at 16?
I bet it's substantial. I don't know. I think the number at 10 would be better. At 15 would be
But
better.
you're never going to get
It's exponential. I don't know the answer to that, but the lower the better, because the pool is ancillary, not to minimize it, but people are going to go vote for the school and they may not vote for the pool. And so at pushing 20 million, that's an easy no. If we could say to people, we stuck to the 15, it's still going to be a beautiful facility that might get us somewhere. I don't know. I think the 17 is a high number.
So remember, we're not tied to the MSBA process here, per Steve's point, is we do have the ability moving forward to, we're not setting the
So let's do
budget
it
at
now.
SD. We're gonna miss a deadline here. It
Well,
has to be
aren't they
released.
self-imposed deadlines? We can what's the deadline? Town council?
Town council has to put it on the ballot.
I think you could take a hard look at the contingencies right now, Greg. We need to all understand what that could mean in the future. We carried an $825,000 owner's contingency.
You go pound sand, you think you're touching that?
I know, right? But that's it. That's all you have in terms of if there are change orders, if there are, that's where that comes from. There's really no other source to fund that from. So once again, I think it can be looked at, but I would.
Risk.
Let's call it what it is. When there are change orders,
Yes.
This isn't an if. We're not living in fantasy land, right? This is how it's going to work. There's a standard of care that if these guys hit it perfectly, there's still going to be change orders. That's nobody's fault. That's the reality of what we're doing.
If we set the budget at 15.5, can we hit it?
Well, that's what I knew you were going to say. And that's the problem I feel like you're putting us in where, this is a budget exercise. I agree. And I agree that you could choose a smaller number than the number we're presenting. But there's a point at which it's uncomfortable to say, oh yeah, you've agreed to that budget. And because this is very different than the school in the level of, again, thinking about West Springfield, we've already taken out a lot of finishes. We've already taken out, there's factor in structure and there's factor in mechanical still, which makes me feel confident that we will be okay with the budget we're presenting in the long run, but there's not a lot of extra stuff here and it's a smaller program altogether. I think, overall, do I think you could get under that 16 and we could deliver? Yes, but I can't say for sure exactly where, and I really would hate for you to take it out of the direct costs at this point, instead of if you're committing to that budget and then it's addressed elsewhere.
Dory, let's be clear. You could deliver something.
Yes.
Just like we could deliver something of a high school for 120 million.
Right.
Nobody'd want to go there.
Right. There,
Bruce
will
will
there
be very
be?
busy. Your plate.
Right.
So remember what we're doing here
Right.
at SD. We're pricing the project that this committee voted to move forward with. So, I understand that a number was put out there.
But then you need to tell us that it's not a realistic number as we're doing it, because we're trying to put a package together. It's a bigger pool than anybody else around is building. At that time, we should have said, well, it's probably going to be over 15. Let's really consider that. Now I'm being told it's too late and we have to go with a $17 million budget. I don't buy that.
I'm just saying,
Have to.
It's a huge
you don't have
project.
to. I'm saying, yeah, you can do that. We have very little time, so to make that change, right? And we can kind of factor that in. Again, the committee was asked to really think that through and have that discussion, and the committee did have that discussion, knowing we had this time frame. So it's a challenge, and if the committee wants to do that, we can. I can't promise you what that number is going to be after we do that estimating, because there are a lot of things are caught up in things that you can't change on a dime. So I just don't know how much when we change this line and that line, it's really going to produce the number you're looking for. Do as a whole, or there are other areas here, I think, but potentially you could then get down the road and say not have the contingency that is going to make it a comfortable process, or not have latitude to do anything else in design and DD. It could be a more comfortable or less comfortable project. But there's a whole committee of opinions here. When I came in the room, Bruce said, should we add 8,000 for a backup pump? So we haven't even talked about that. And there may be other things people are concerned about that need to be addressed. So that's exactly what will happen, right? Is you'll immediately say, well, what about,
And Greg, I certainly get your point, and this really was unprecedented for us. If you recall, we really based this off of the West Springfield High School because we didn't have drawings at the time. We didn't really have that project to go off of. We're certainly not professional estimators, but in our exercise that we did, we had $14 to $16 million for the West Springfield High School.
We're not professional estimators.
Myself.
We are.
Yes. But when we came up with the 14 to 16 million, that was for the West Springfield High School specifically, not for and I think throughout this, with the energy code, there's additional things that were not thought about when we're thinking about that project that should have been for this project.
Well, and to some degree they were, right? So the choice of mechanical systems, I mean, those are all part of the process as well, you know, and those are,
And filter versus the sand filter, we
yeah,
the better filter, so this is a direct impact on cost.
yeah. I mean,
And everything that was,
Which is great, and I agree in those decisions, but if the cost comes in higher, then we should have a chance to reevaluate those decisions because we're the ones who have to bring to the voters and ask them to pay for it, and it's a lot of money as a secondary project.
it is.
To say that we have no opportunity to cut that number, I'm not gonna accept that because I think it's too high and
So then I think that's
Help
the
me,
question as a
then.
committee, then.
yeah, that's fine.
Evaluate each of these and give direction to us if the committee wants us to go back and take square footage out and do it the way I'm, describing, like we find what the area of wall, area of pool, area of floor, and have those factors adjusted. I'm just saying that's not going to get you to 15.5. So
But then the contingency is higher than it perhaps needs to be, and so
you
we address that.
go through
Not
all of
according
this.
to some other people.
Yeah.
right? So
Hey, we can go for the gold. I don't know. Let's go for it. Whatever. What do I know? Maybe it'll pass. I don't have to be the wet blanket all the time.
I got two questions.
Yeah.
Was the talk about, is this conversation about reducing the actual pool by 3 feet?
Yes.
I want to make sure it wasn't the 3 feet shorter building. So
It's both.
Everything.
It will be.
Take it out of the pool,
And then I got a probably very dumb question. Wouldn't there be some discounts? Is it the same company that's building the high school and the pool? Like, is that all, that's all accounted for? That they have everything here and
I think we've reflected that in here. Can't say, we have to put them both out to, not per, bid per se. Well, we will eventually have to put them out to bid, so.
Separate procurement
Yeah.
process.
how many
Separate.
companies to, if they get the bid for the high school building, to then give a better bid for the building right next to it?
We're hoping that we get the same CM, but the sub.
Kevin, the guy that you're going to hire through that process, he only reflects about this much of that budget, right? So if he did you a favor, it's not going to be meaningful. I mean, it might be something, right? But, everybody else is going to bid it under filed sub bid, right? It's going to be an electrician and a plumber and a mechanical guy and a mason and everything else. And those guys are just, hey, it's a public bid. I bid it the way I bid it. I don't know anybody favors. That's just how that works.
right, you see it in the CM fee and, potentially,
Yeah, maybe, right?
yeah, some of the
Pre-con.
recon.
And in a lot of ways, actually, this project leans more heavily on the filed sub bids than a higher
Given the nature of the work.
Construction.
Right? There's no carpenter.
the nature of the work.
right. Electrical, yeah.
So do we take some of these?
That's certainly gets you on the way. Those are some options.
I mean, that gets you what, 277?
Roughly, yeah, I have to give all those to the estimator. That's us doing the math. So pretty much think about that as a quarter. So, I mean, this is
Is that,
start.
so that's with you put the margin on, okay.
Yeah, and that's with the,
would be to 16.5.
That would take you to 16.5.
yeah.
So we do that, we take the 3 feet and we lower the contingency. We're there. How easy that one's, Kevin? He chuckled, that's nice.
What are you trying to get to? 15 or
Yeah.
15.5? Or something that starts with a 15? Just for discussion, or just by way of example, using Kim's numbers that she put together, a few months ago. If you were to take $1 million out right now, no matter how you did it, doesn't matter, right? We're at 16,795. You took that down to 15,795, just to make the math easy. That $1 million represents $9 a year based on a 30-year bond, which is 75 cents a month. I appreciate that the sticker shock of seeing 1.6 versus 1.5 or whatever it might be could be disconcerting. But it seems to me that the reality of this is, we're talking about pennies in the scheme of this. I don't know. I mean, Coach, I'd be curious to hear from you or Charles or Kevin. It's like, look, I mean, do we really need the things that we have in this design right now? Like, is there a meaningful way if you chop 3 feet? And I sort of remember the discussion about lane widths and all this, but I don't swim, so it doesn't sink home to me.
I think that what's gonna count to voters is how much is your taxes gonna go up every year? And if you're saying it's going up by $9 a year as opposed to, the community wants a pool. I can't say if they want a school or not, but I can tell you the senior citizens of this town and the families that have young kids in this town want a pool to swim in because they hate going to this pool. It's trash. I'm not talking about this.
Of all ironies, when
Talk to people, and if your taxes are going to go up $130 or $139, that's cheaper than buying a pool membership anywhere. Because I pay 50, 60, 70, I don't even know how much I pay to go to the Y, but we're talking about building a community-based pool that will be open to everybody in the community to use during the day and not just high school kids. And I think that chopping off $1 million and maybe $9 a year in your taxes is not going to make a big difference. I don't think you have to say it's going to be 15 or 17. You say this is how much it's going to cost you a year for pool. And I think that's an easier number for people to swallow.
Charles or Matt, you got any thoughts?
I think that the budget that was submitted and proposed is comprehensive. I think you guys did an excellent job, a thorough job. Greg, I hear your point. I think that where we are right now, in my mind, this is as low as I'd want to cut, and I think 6 inches in each lane is a meaningful width from a swimmer's perspective. So listen, I think that this is a great proposal, and I'm fully in favor of it. I'm ready to make a motion to approve it.
Matt, you still on?
Yeah. So I kind of completely echo and agree with Greg's sentiments in terms of the price. It's a little frustrating that we sort of put that 15.5 out. Now it's kind of what's almost 17. But I sort of agree that it's a little late in the process to still be cutting things, especially as large as 3 feet of the whole building and then the pool. So I think that it would probably be most prudent to accept it today as presented.
Anybody else online, Don?
No, sir.
What do you think, Bruce?
I think the project as it stands today is accurate. And like you said, they did a great job putting this all together. And like you said, I do have some things that need to be added or discussed with the committee. It's not probably $10,000 to $12,000. But I think we've already cut everything that we could cut during discussions, during the meeting. So like you said, we came all together as a committee and got everything that you needed to be successful for your program. Kevin, yours as well. So I think the package we have in front of us today is ready to move forward with it.
Are there any other?
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the budget as presented.
Second.
Let's go.
Yeah, I have a question. So depending on how this vote goes, I think it's really then important how these next forums go in terms of breaking all this down. And it's going to, I think it's going to be important that somehow we bring Kim into this. I don't know what her presentation to the town council is going to look like on Tuesday, but that chart's going to change because we know that we're getting more green energy points, right? So the town's share for the school project has gone down since preferred schematic report. The MSBA did pull one of their beautiful strategic moves in saying that it's a local decision as to whether we recognize that in the ballot question language right now. because they won't vote on that until October. Is that right, Ben?
Correct. October 25th.
So even though everybody on their side, everybody on our side agrees that we will have those green energy points taking our grant up from estimated 55 to about 62,
61 points.
61. The question that was asked of me by the president of the town council was, can we change then our reimbursement rate in the town motion? And the answer was, it's a local decision. So if we recommend keeping it where right now it sits at 56.48, it's really important that we break this down in a way that people understand. Because one of the things I was mentioning to people earlier, we were at the Maple Shade open house yesterday and we had a lot of good support. But at least 3, if not 4 people asked, so when is the town starting on this? Which means they have really no idea that there's a vote going on November 7th, that the town can't start on this unless people come out and vote in the affirmative. And because they asked the question like that, I was able to answer it with all of that information. But so it's all these presentations are so important now.
To our MSBA experts, as a practical matter, is this rate increase entirely likely to hold, or is this still kind of a?
I think what I would do, Steve, is temper it a little bit. You know, if we're what is the rate? 61 point.
I don't have the exact.
Maybe you say it's going to be 60 or.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to recommend not changing anything in the language that goes to town council, just because, you know, this local decision response has hurt us before.
I think it's going to be tenths of a point, but I would just temper it a little bit.
What I would say is that then in our presentations, our public forums, we should be talking about that.
So
Because the reality is the overall budget of 177.5 in terms of the school project is the overall budget. But that's really what is the appropriation. You know, what we then get for the grant and what impacts the taxes comes later.
Right. I mean, I don't know. Who knows for sure? You're saying that in the forms explain 56.7 is the,
So the point
reimbursement
that Greg's
rate.
making is
We've
that
added to it.
You have to diffuse that sticker shock. And if we don't do a good job, and I think we've been doing a good job, and we got those questions from supportive parents who are involved in their children's lives. So when is the town starting on this project? And I answered it really well with a smile, but inside I wanted to cry. Because, you know.
So your point being, there's a lot of people who are supportive who clearly don't understand.
Who have no idea how their support should, you know, what action their support should take. Yes.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Yeah.
So I think however this vote goes, sorry, I didn't mean to get on a soapbox here. We have a lot of work to do in the next 2 months.
Certainly preparation for the community forums is on the agenda for next week's SBC meeting. So
do we have an SBC meeting?
Yes, we do.
So my calendar.
14. Not on your calendar? 14.
Do we put that on our calendar?
We're gonna have
Go back to the list of options, please.
That one? This one?
Yeah, the other one, yeah. So I think in reality, we can say that a lot of people are in favor of the pool, but maybe 5% of the population will ever walk through the doors, I bet. So I think we have to keep that in perspective. The people that do come and use the pool, I think if we eliminated all those things, there would be no decrease in quality of experience. And even the 6 inches, I would add. I know it would be a little tighter, but only by 6 inches, the same of every other pool. So if we could do all these things and the 6 inches and hit the 15, I'm just going to put it out there one more time. Why don't we just do it and get to 15 and build the pool? You know, I think that 17 number has some sticker shocks.
So just for clarity, you're not getting to 15, you're getting to 15.
Yeah, in the 15.
15.8.
We'll get close.
Right, but every time you say 16.8, you round it up to 17. So let's not pretend we're getting to 15.
Steve, you know what I'm doing.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So Cora, I think we've got a motion that's on the floor, right?
Yes.
You do.
All right, so we're gonna vote on the motion to accept the document as it is for how much it's going to be, the estimated costs. Steve,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Gordon,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
and Cora is yes. Okay.
Motion passes.
So, all right, well, we have about 10 minutes and, is there anything else that Ben or Dory or anybody needs to share about this process? I know it says up here, upcoming community engagement opportunities.
We just kind of want to touch back on that. So that schedule again, now that number goes to Kim preps information for the 12th. And then we have these open houses. So as soon as we have that tax information, it all goes into the public communications process, the FAQ.
Who's getting that to Kim? Is that you?
I can shoot that over to Kim. We were talking, Dory, a little before, though. It sounds like on the 12th, it is going to be, that meeting at town council is going to be specifically about the bond process. I don't know.
So what we had, I guess it was my confusion. We asked today, I was talking to the town clerk and I asked, so would you like these documents if we have a budget voted on today for tomorrow? Because I figure they're putting the packet together for the town council for Tuesday's meeting. But according to the president of the town council, the 12th is just a hilltop presentation to discuss the ramifications the projects may have or the bonding may have on the town to bond future projects and at what rates. So the vote on all of this will take place on the 15th. So I don't know exactly what the presentation is to answer that question.
So you guys have probably seen Hilltop at this point. And, typically they do take this information and help.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get this over to Kim now that it's approved. I'll get it over to her.
Yeah.
I already sent the school budget over. She's worked that out. I just told her we had this one meeting and then I had to get the numbers. So she will be doing that. I just wanted to confirm that it's on the 15th. Not the 12th.
Yeah, so the 15th seems to be when all that's happening. The documents will go in later next week.
Yeah.
Or the 15th.
So when there's open houses, which there are 2 next week.
Right.
Yeah, it'll still be there.
I mean, I will be at both because I have children at both of those schools. So.
And we prepared boards that were at the open house yesterday. They were sort of draft boards, and we're going to reprint a couple of those and finish them up and get that whole set back for the next open houses. And then the community meeting is where we'll have more lengthy description and response. So I think to Helen's point about the next school building committee meeting, probably would be best just to review that PowerPoint for the community meeting in which you're kind of saying, well, what's the difference between, what's in the project? What are the energy savings?
Right.
What are the extra incentive points? That might be helpful to kind of go through because
explain what value engineering we've done both on the school project and the pool project to get to where we are.
And I think what's also really important in public projects is for people to understand that number we're going to keep cost checking that number, and you have to kind of come back to it. We can't grow it because that's what the voters voted on. So that process continues. So a lot of what we presented to the town council in that overview, I think, is the starting point.
The basis for them.
Yeah.
Do we have any concern, John, with mingling the pool information with the school information on these next 2 community forums from a standpoint?
Yeah, we got called from the MSBA a week ago about they've picked up on stuff in these meetings and then in newspaper about the pool. So they asked Ben and I to clarify what was going on.
It wasn't a reprimand. It was really just a, hey,
how
are you handling it?
Are they?
They have advice.
Do they have?
We assured them that it was completely separate projects, and we heard them loud and clear.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's a little danger. commingling information.
I mean, maybe we should have a chat with them before the community meetings because
Yeah.
it would be unfair to the voters to have a
Yeah.
forum about it that isn't answering those questions. That would be very confusing probably. So
So we can give,
to
it was
clarify.
Chris Ailes who we spoke with, give
Yeah.
Chris a call and just let him know, hey, it would be crazy to think that these questions aren't going to come up or
They're
they're
on
not.
the same ballot.
They're gonna be on the
Yeah.
ballot issue, right? One.
You have to. They're separated because of their rules. I'm sorry.
So, yeah, I get you.
And I'm sure the MSBA doesn't want to, see a project go down out of confusion or irritation purely on, information delivery, so yeah, we should just talk that through.
We can reach out to Chris.
Sure.
I'm happy to call them.
I would say individually they're.
Didn't you get us in trouble with Jack originally? I mean, when Jack said East Long Meadow doesn't want our money, I'll give it to someone else.
I don't remember exactly what he said. John? I thought he said, you're doing a great job.
He's retired now anyway, so. The interesting thing about this pool project, if it does fail at vote, you always can revote it in the spring or something. Yes.
There's no
It's
MSBA.
not governed by the MSBA, and
It's not, but
People are going to show up for the school. They're not going to show up for the.
I hear you.
okay. It's not the easiest thing to rally
It's a
people.
$16 million project. Yeah, we barely do projects that big in this town. Unfortunately.
True.
There any
Anything else?
business?
Everybody's welcome to the open houses next week.
And there's a meeting for the forums. Can you just repeat when those are? So I'm not sure when they are. And then I know that the rec department's doing like a harvest fest, something in town on October 14th. So I know that I think Carolyn, who's doing the vote yes for ELHS,
That's,
there, and I know
Days or something.
yeah, East Long Meadow Day or something.
East Long Meadow?
Yeah. So I know they've asked us to be there.
It's at the Brown Farm, right? The October.
Oh, I thought it was in the center.
It's in the center, right?
I know there's one at the center. They're having something at the Brown Farm too. I don't know.
How's the
what.
parking going there?
I don't know.
Directing traffic?
Yeah, no.
The next two community forums are September 21st and October 19th.
And I was going to have a chat with Carolyn and share the images, that we are presenting, and anybody who asks for them can have those images. So, and
And the restrictions for them are off. They can do whatever they think is in the best interest of supporting the project at those events.
Are there any ways after it goes to ballot or when it's going to go to ballot that we get like lawn signs, or how do people have asked me about that?
That's got to come from that's their group.
Okay.
So people asked last night about that.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't have any means to do that,
Right. Okay.
nor can I.
Okay.
Or I thought if there was a group out there campaigning, that might be a good idea. Some would say. Hypothetically, were there a group out there? Would be a good idea.
All right. If there is no new business, then I will accept any motions to adjourn.
Moved.
Any seconds?
Second.
All right. I'm just going to do a voice call here. Are there any? Is everyone, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Hi.
Those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Go.
Thank you.